Okay, you guys, let's have some fun and roll this bad boy. Sentimental intro out in 3, 2, and action!
Action!
You know, kind of feel like Ellen DeGeneres right now with my little cup. Oops.
Hiking is a necessity. You get outside, you get your fresh air, you get your vitamin D from the sun, you get your physical activity, and you learn so much stuff like along the way, whether you intend to or not when you're leaving out on your hike. And it's just so cool, like if you see different animals. I've seen animals I've never seen, or little plants I've never seen, like on this hike alone. So there's all sorts of new things to come, and it just never ends, all the different things that you can come across while you're hiking. As you know, I have been on all sorts of different hikes, and one of the best that stands out is when I was in South Africa. I actually, well, you probably know this, I got to go hiking on foot to track a rhino with the trackers, and it was just amazing because it's a sense of fear, but it's also a sense of being wild, because you're out there out of your element of like North America, and you're out of the Land Rover, obviously, like most people take their little tours on, and you know that there's big dangerous animals all around you, and there's just so many different things that you experience on foot compared to being on a Land Rover or Jeep going through the African bush. And we did get to go see the rhino, and I actually got to see them with a huge horn, which was amazing because it was the first time I had actually seen a rhino in the wild with its full-on horn. And it was just a very magical moment, and it's very memorable to me. There's all sorts of different types of hiking. Now, if you've only done 1 or 2 different types, like walking along the beach or hiking up a mountain, you've got to go and try different ones, because you've got to have different elements and learn what you actually like. As an example, like hiking up this, there was loose rocks that you got to watch for. There's tons of different animals, fresh air, there's trees covering you and giving you shade. It's more of an easier, moderate hike that you can take. It's very fun, and you find them in lots of places. Now there's also like dune hiking, like in the Monaghan sand dunes that I went to. But you hike up these big dunes, and if you've never hiked in the desert, it's very difficult because it works muscles you typically don't work. So if you're stepping into the sand, it'll push your toe or your heel downwards because you've got more weight there, and it'll pull your toes up or keep them level, and it'll stretch your Achilles tendon, and it'll work out all these different muscles around here. And it's really cool just to experience each different kind of hiking, because you'll see all sorts of different animals and there's different views. Now if you're hiking on a mountain without trees, it's very different, especially in like a hotter area like western Texas or somewhere, because you're getting this hot sun going straight down on you because you don't have all these trees to protect you. And then there's hiking along the beach. You can either hike up in the dunes, which is kind of like desert hiking, or if there's plants in the dunes, it's a little bit easier, or hiking along the beach, which is really cool, like next to the water. It's more solid sand, so it's easier to walk on, and I like it because you come across all sorts of shells and stuff. And one time I actually walked up on an eel in the Gulf of Mexico. He was like probably about this long, slithering around on the sand. Helped him back into the water and he was good to go. But yeah, so there's all different kinds of hiking, and it's very important to try out each one to find out what you like and what your preferred element is. I guess let's take today for example. Was a day that was on the road, which isn't one of my favorite days, but it has to be done in order to get from place to place. So we got up and then got in the car, drove, charged what we could, what we had car chargers for, such as the tablet, some batteries, all that. And then Facebook, Twitter, Kik, Instagram, all that crazy stuff. Emails, if someone sends an email, we got to respond to that. And then today we had to do a conference call because I got asked if I would like to do an audition, because someone who I've conversed with before thought that I would be good for a part that they had heard about. Oh yeah, well thank you. Yeah, I was just calling because you had wanted to go over the script and how we want to pitch it and everything. And for the next week or week and a half, we're going to be out camping and we'll most likely be out of signal, so just wondering if we could do it now. I learned about how I should approach everything and memorize the lines, and they had sent us the files for the scripts, so of course we had to go and find like an Office Depot or somewhere with a printer, go print the sides, and highlighted all the parts, memorized it in the car, and we were going to go to a place called like WILDerland, where you go and take the airboats through the Everglade type area and see all these animals that are in the swampy land. But unfortunately we discovered that in order to do that you need a special VIP pass called a Sun Pass in order to take certain exits on Florida roads. Then after all that stuff, we got to the campsite, set up. It's about to storm. Luckily it didn't storm while we were setting up the tent, because that happens. And yeah, filmed some stuff. So we've got to film the sides for the audition, find Wi-Fi, like turn it into a YouTube file, give them the link so they can go check it out, and all that, on top of filming the episode, on top of filming the feature, on top of getting vlogs done. And it's just a lot of work, but I guess that's what you gotta do to be adventurous.
It takes a lot to be adventurous. There we go.
Hello, my name is Alec J. Fisher. I am 13 years old. I am from Austin, Texas. I am auditioning for the part of... Okay, listen. We're gonna make it to the mine. Dad don't know what to do, okay? I don't know. I must be looking in the wrong spot. I don't know. Auditions, in my opinion, aren't very fun. Kind of get a little bit nervous. My face turns red, and I don't know what I'd do if I actually got picked up for an audition, but what I like is what I do now. Talking to you guys, I feel very comfortable, feel happy, know how to do it. I've done it tons before. I wing almost everything I say, and it comes out right for the most part. But yeah, auditions, whether it's taped in the backyard or in a studio, I like the backyard ones because they're a little more comfortable. I don't know, for some reason I've never gotten an audition. I guess I just don't have what it takes, or I don't read it properly or something. There's got to be something. I don't know if I took some acting classes, but I think I'm pretty good with what I do right now, so I'll stick to what I'm good with.
Okay guys, I'm about to do the radio interview, so yeah. Hey Bruce, what's up? It's Alec from Alec and WILDerland. Awesome. And you? Well, usually when we're picking out a place, we'll pick out a place ahead of time, we'll research the place, and sometimes we'll choose a certain topic if it's geocaching or fly fishing. The main goal is just to get it as popular as possible, whether it remains on YouTube or gets on TV, but I think our widespread goal is to be on TV, because that'd be like super awesome. I usually make up the scripts myself. Sometimes I'll help edit stuff. I take care of social media. I'll plan for the episodes. I'll make up the little fun facts for it. I do all the stuff in the episodes. Well, the international episodes tend to be my favorite because they're so new. It's really kind of hard to tell which one I like the most. Like, watching the South Africa episode, it has a really great impact on you. It's really fun to watch, and filming the Australia episode was really, really fun to film. And it's really cool, especially if you go out barefoot, then it's an entirely new experience to be able to touch the ground, the terrain that you're walking on with your bare feet, and you pay a lot more attention to the outdoors when you're barefoot. Scary.
So, along my trip, I have handed out lots of campaign cards, bumper stickers, bracelets, etc. But yeah, some people don't know that much about nature and endangered species. We mostly handed them out at campgrounds, so some people had some knowledge, handed them out at stores. But yeah, so it was very interesting seeing the reactions of everyone, especially, I don't know, some people didn't know about what was endangered, why it's endangered, how it's endangered, anything's endangered. It was kind of surprising. Like, we'd tell them about the rhino and they'd be like, what, the rhino's endangered? How does that happen? They're everywhere in Africa. So, no, they're not. They may be advertised because they're part of the Big Five, but there's not that many of them left. Some people were really into it. Some people were just like, okay, kid, go away. I gotta go do something. But yeah, so it was fun talking to the people who are actually interested, who wanted the long story, because typically I'll go up, pitch them a short story, like, hey, my name's Alec, I'm on an adventure show, and we've got 5 endangered species, all that. But yeah, sometimes they'll ask for more details, so thank you for whoever did that, because it's always a pleasure to tell them about my passion. But yeah, so it was fun telling them about that. I actually got to speak to a college class, and I asked everyone to name a species, or 2 species of rhino for a special prize, which was a bumper sticker. And one person could name a species, which was black, and they couldn't figure out what any other one, so I said, what's the opposite of black? And they go, white. And I'm like, yes, good job, you get the bumper sticker. And a lot of the time people, when I say kangaroos that are endangered, they'll be like, no they aren't, what are you talking about? So I always gotta explain that. And yeah, some people were just totally against what I said, which was kind of disappointing, but oh well, there's people in the world like that. While I was in a state that started with an I went up to a guy who was about to go fishing with his kids, and I said, hello sir, I'd like to give you this campaign card and all that. And I handed him the bumper sticker. He's like, oh kid, there's no way I'm putting a bumper sticker on this baby. Maybe my other car, but yeah, no way this one, so take your bumper sticker back. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, well, my endangered species, and I start telling him, and then I get to the kangaroo, and he's like, kangaroo? What? They're not endangered. I've eaten kangaroo before. And I'm like, okay. And then he started telling me about his taxidermist, and that's when I kind of tuned him out and then let him go do his stuff. But yeah, so some people are happy, some people aren't. Or some people make me happy, some people don't. But yeah, so I've had quite a bit of fun telling everybody about the stuff, and I've actually got connections because of it. They'll say, hey, I own an animal sanctuary, so why don't you come check this out and all that. So yeah, it's been fun. Now, driving time, there's a lot of it. It was entire days, if not more, driving from one state to another, trying to get to places. But what I do with that driving time, let's see.
Approaching right turn on Park Road 25.
I draw pictures, I research stuff, I do social media, as I said. I sleep sometimes. A lot of the time when I sleep, I take my feet and I put them up on the dashboard, and I get little Alec feet prints all over the place. And then there's always a bit of work to be done when you're in civilization driving around, because that's typically when you hit signal, which you don't get a lot of when you're camping. So I'll contact family,
tell them I'm still alive, and then they go, oh man. Just kidding, they like me, I think. And then also get ready for the next state if we are going into a state, or researching the next park, because a lot of the time places have certain regulations like, oh, I go to Idaho, I better buy a fishing license, and then I buy a fishing license and I end up catching one fish, so it's a $22 fish or whatever. And then, oh, okay, well tomorrow we're going to Wyoming, so you better check out their regulations, and my goodness, it's just a bunch of buying new fishing licenses basically. So we check the regulations.
As far as fishing license, we can just pick it up at like a Walmart or...
Now what a brackish is we got the ocean that way, freshwater rivers meeting into this area that way, so it kind of turns into freshwater and saltwater mix. And the really cool thing about that is in this area you can catch a mix of species, such as like mangrove snapper, which are a ocean fish. You can catch snook, which is an ocean fish. You can also catch largemouth bass, which is a freshwater fish, small bluegill, which is a freshwater fish. So as you can tell, it's a very interesting and unique form of fishing. But sadly, it does make fishing license a bit difficult, because if you have a freshwater license, not a saltwater, and you catch a saltwater fish, you are like, oh crud. Basically, you just can't keep the fish. But I'm gonna test my luck with the rods and see what I can snag, and who knows, we might get an ocean fish or a freshwater fish.
Get reservations. That's one of the hardest things to do, is getting reservations at a park, especially if it's not a state park, or at a hotel or wherever we're staying, because everyone has a different deal, different phone numbers, emails, certain things to contact them.
It's some British guy asking if I'm a telemarketer.
But that's what a lot of the car time is spent doing, is just preparing and getting ready. So, for most kids, school's pretty simple. It's just a day-to-day thing. Don't go on weekends. You go a certain time to a certain time every weekday, drive to school when you wake up, and then you go and all that stuff. Now, as many of you know, I am actually homeschooled right now, and I am very pleased with my homeschooling program. It is more advanced than my public schooling was, so I'm learning tons, and you wouldn't believe how much I learned along the way. I've learned way more on these adventures than I ever have in schooling, and it's actual good information that I will use in the future, like to pursue my zoology and or marine biology career. I picked up a lot of useful information and met a lot of useful people, so it's a real world experiences, which is very good. But back to schooling, before my homeschooling, it was pretty difficult, because it was like, oh, okay, so we have a 4-day weekend here, we've got a quick drive to northern Texas and film an episode. So they were really quick episodes, but now that I'm homeschooling, it's a lot more flexible. The homeschooling is basically just an online program, so I got my books, I do my schoolwork on paper or on the computer, and then submit it to my teacher. She grades it, tells me if I should do better or anything, or compliments me on how I'm doing or whatever, and it works out great. This homeschooling program that I have now is my favorite out of all that I've done. I've tried out a few actually. One of the first ones that second one that I did was when I went to Australia. I actually had that homeschooling program, and I was doing the schoolwork on the plane, and you know, flying to another country is very exciting, and I got kind of sidetracked, so I drew lots of pictures of kangaroos all over my homework, which I'm sure my teacher was very pleased with my art, but not so pleased with the outcome of my work. But it's all good in the end. I've been a straight A student all my life, so I'm pretty good to go.
Weather. Well, when going out on adventures and camping and filming, weather has always been a big issue. Before every adventure, we gotta look at the weather and make sure it's nice out. It's gonna be nice out for the next few days, and a lot of the time we are on a tight schedule, so especially on this big adventure. I am right in Minnesota right now, and I'm right outside the Spain Museum, but sadly it's closed. So I'm gonna have to wait until tomorrow to go to it. As you can see, there's some pretty clouds behind me, but they're actually not pretty. They're evil because they're the edge of that big storm that we've got to somehow avoid. and make through, because obviously it's not very fun when I film in the rain. So yeah. My motto is, if you're close enough to hear the thunder, you're also close enough to get struck by lightning. Storms can be trouble when you're outside and camping and adventuring and all of that, so just always be cautious.
Crazy dreams happen to me all the time because crazy things happen to me all the time. Now, my dreams are always just so weird, and sometimes they're too weird to share with other people. So a lot of the time I forget them, but when I do share them with people, they are pretty memorable. Let's see, my most recent one is last night, actually. I had a dream that I was on a cruise ship full of people. Or full of actually little people, so children everywhere. Actual Chinese, actual children. So they're, let's try to restart. So my dream last night actually took place on a cruise ship. Now that's probably because I've been on a cruise ship before. And there were children everywhere. For some reason, little children smaller than me, so it was a very colorful, fun little area, and I was walking up this ramp. And around the corner came Nicolas Cage, of all people, and he was wearing this full orange suit like this. It's a bright orange suit. I'm sure he probably had a top hat and a cane too, but I didn't look closely. But I was like, oh my gosh, it's Nicolas Cage. I better take a picture with him. So I asked him, hey, oh my gosh, can I take a picture with you? And he's like, oh, being on this cruise ship, I knew someone would ask me that. Okay, take out your phone. And I feel my pockets, and my phone's not there. And I'm like, oh no, this is a once-in-a-lifetime deal. And I was so mad at myself, and Nicolas Cage was like, oh, well, I'll wait 5 minutes in my car and wait for you to get it. So I ran around frantically, and my heart was pounding, and I could not find my phone. And he's like, okay, so he takes off, and I was so mad. And then I woke up, and I was like, oh, thank goodness it was just a dream. I really wanted that picture with Nicolas Cage. But it's all good. Let's see. Also, I've had lots of dreams. I'm sorry there was a spitball there, but it's all good because, well, I'm weird as it is, and you guys don't do it to me, so it's all good. I've had lots of dreams about fishing, like even ponds that are just stocked with these giant fish, and I've caught them, and I'm so happy, and then I wake up, and I'm like, oh. Or there's dreams that I've had about being a wizard like Harry Potter, and it's all fun. I fly around on my broomstick, and then I wake up, and I'm like, oh. But, yeah, I think the one about Nicolas Cage is the only one that I woke up and been happy about. I'm like, oh, thank goodness Nicolas Cage wasn't actually there. It would have been so embarrassing. Then there was the one the night before where, right now I got a new 40-gallon fish tank, and I'm super excited. I'm going to stock it with live bears and all sorts of good stuff. Also some egg-laying fish. I'm starting to breed koi catfish, which I'm super excited about, and feeding brine shrimp and all that good stuff. Not the koi catfish, I could feed the baby fry of my Molly brine shrimp. But back to the koi catfish, which is the center of my dream. I had a dream that I was breeding koi catfish, which I will be in the future, hopefully, and successfully. So I was breeding the koi catfish, and if you don't know, koi catfish, once they go to lay their eggs, they put them on the glass or wherever on the plants, and I came in, and my little koi catfish had laid eggs, and I was so excited, and she still looked pretty fat, so I was like, oh, well, I'll wait and see if she lays some more eggs. And I'm like, oh, it'll be risky though, because the eggs might get eaten and she might eat the eggs. But I come back later and the eggs are gone. I'm like, oh no. And then I go outside and my koi catfish has grown a lot, and she's now like 4 or 5 feet tall, like as tall as me. And she robbed a cruise ship, and I was so disappointed because now my koi catfish is wanted and I don't have babies. And then I woke up. So, for some reason my dreams take places on cruise ships, and it's all stuff that happens to me throughout the day. But yeah, my dreams are pretty wild.
Well, campfires keep me warm, especially when I'm out fishing and I get all wet, like walking in the water when I fly fishing or something, and then I'll come up and warm my little piglets. And it's a very nice way to end the day, because it just, for me, it's kind of a symbol as camping. Like, when I think of camping, I think of campfires, because that's a very important
little asset when you're out camping or if you're in a survival situation, because it keeps you warm, it cooks your food, it could be used as signal and all sorts of stuff. But it's also a very cool little thing just to have around. Like, for some reason, I really like lighting fires in different ways, especially with the flint striker, because that one little strike flies out, that one little spark flies out, and then once there's a big raging fire like this, it's hard to believe that that little spark turned into such a big thing. And I think, well, I made that, and I'm proud of that fire. And it's just, hot sparks. Okay, I don't like fire, never mind. But it kind of like puts you in a little trance. You kind of just daydream, or in this case, I guess it's night dream, but you're not asleep. Just staring at the little embers, and you just start to have, your mind just wanders and you think about all sorts of stuff. For example, whenever I'm out camping, typically every single night I'll make a fire. And just think about how many fires I've probably made. Like every time I do an episode, I'm out for at least 3 nights, so that's already 3 fires, and occasionally I'll do a fire in the morning to like cook up some other food, or I'm just bored, so I'll light little fires in the campfire. But I've probably done tons and tons, and I've probably done more than any other kid my age has done. And it's kind of sad to think about that, but yeah, I guess it's probably true because I have lit so many fires. But maybe one day all the other kids will get out and go camping and start lighting fires like me. But don't burn down your neighborhood, because that's not good. When I first started camping, I was told that if I dig out the little ashes in the morning, that it's still going to be warm after the fire. So I did that, and I dug down, and I got this warmth, and I kept digging, and I got some actual hot embers from the night before. Like, it's amazing how long they lasted, because we had just put some ash over them to put them out. But I was actually, I actually took little pieces of grass and put it in and worked it into a big fire again. So with that ember that had lasted overnight, I was able to turn it back into a fire. So yeah, those embers survive pretty well when they're covered up and insulated by the ash.
I really enjoy showing other people flint strikers because it's mesmerizing to people who haven't done it before. They're like, whoa, you just made fire out of this little piece of whatever that is, and you made an entire campfire out of a tiny spark. And one of my biggest idols on campfire making is Cody Lundeen, because man, he's a master at it. He can get wet tinder and just bam, make it like that. Another one is the bow drill. That's a pretty difficult one. I tried it on the beach episode and a few other times. I have never gotten that to work properly. Got it smoking before, but man, that is difficult getting it back and forth with the rock. Gotten it to turn black before, but never a successful run.
Probably the hardest part about making the fires is just keeping it alive, especially in high winds, like a place such as the beach. It's very difficult to keep it going. But right now it's pretty not windy at all, and it's doing very well. But after it rains, when the fire pit, your firewood, the kindling, everything is all wet, it's very difficult. Another thing is, at a lot of places, especially in Texas, there are fire bans to prevent forest fires. You know, Smokey the Bear telling you that the fire danger is high today, so don't go lighting fires. So you gotta actually resort to a charcoal fire, which isn't very fun in my opinion. One thing that's pretty original, I guess, is I think about weird stuff that I can do with the fire, such as one time I took a penny and I dropped it in, and the penny actually melted into a liquid, and I pulled it out and molded it a little bit. I tried to make a pug, but I'm not that artistic. Yeah, I guess whatever main metals other than copper is used in pennies nowadays, the melting point is lower than the fire hot point was. But yeah, I just sort of think about little experiments that I can do to see, test the fire's true strengths. So when you think about cavemen, you think about mostly like clubbing dinosaurs and stuff, but the lightning would come down and strike a dry piece of wood, and the caveman would be like, fire, or whatever uka uka language he had back then that he had created. But I guess eventually they probably got to know fire and used it to their advantage, and they'd probably sit around campfires like I do, just without this big thing set up. And what would they talk about? Probably talk about the newest artist around that makes the cave paintings of pugs, and his name is Alec Von Cleef, and he is an artist, and he uses dinosaur blood that he clubs himself and writes on the walls. They probably also talk about the cute little pug dinosaurs that are running around snorting and roaring, and their call probably sort of sounds like this. So yeah, they talk about new ways to capture the pug dinosaur, and about cave paintings and all sorts of stuff. Man, I have probably done tons of different things with fire. Well, I have done all sorts of different things with fire. I had actually branded a log to say wild. I took this little metal bar that I found and put it in the fire, and then I put it on the like whitish side of the log, and I branded that, and that was in California. In Washington State, the first time I had gone, I actually went down to the lake and got a big piece of ice, and then used that as a shovel and scraped all this fresh snow out of the like snow bank, because the snow was so high that it sort of went down to the fire pit. And I had a fire going, and I put all the fresh snow into the pot, and we had boiled it and put it into a hot bladder. But man, snow takes forever to melt. I didn't realize how long it would take, like sitting in a fire. I thought it would melt a little bit faster. And let's see, it's sort of going. What else have I done? Like, obviously, I've made little torches and used them to look around, write your name, and like draw figure eights and circles and all sorts of things and lines. But it's cooler when it's like really dark, pitch black out. I've cooked stuff over the fire, like fish that I've caught. Well, yeah, 1 fish, 2 fish, 3 fish, bluefish, something like that. I've also seen where moths will dive bomb the fire because they're attracted to light and follow the moon and all that. It's just always fun to have when you're out camping. Sit around the fire and talk to yourself or talk to a group of people like about the day and about the next day and what you're gonna do and how much you love pugs, which I'm sure all you guys do when you're sitting around campfires.
Ice and cold. Ooh, one of my biggest enemies. Just a few hours ago, it's still cold out, but there was a little raccoon that decided to come out and warm his little hands by the fire because it was so cold even for him. And that's actually why I'm in here right now, not because of the cold. I went 14, 15 days in the cold, and I'm a warrior and whatnot, so don't mock me for being in this little warm cabin tonight. And it is for the sake of the tent, you guys. That's why I'm in this warm place, because poor little tent has to dry off. I could do fine out in that cold, shivering and being chilly. But just to dry off, it's a much easier transporting little thing, as the tents will be on planes and everywhere and everything. So it's nice to have it be dry, and it's also nice to have a cabin, because a little bit of luxury is always nice once in a while. These beautiful concrete floors and windows and whatnot. Washington State. Been there, done that twice. And the first time it was even colder and icier than the second time. There was snow, which was fun. After being in Texas for a few years, got to experience snow once again, so it brought back memories of South Dakota. And it was real deep snow out in this cabin in the middle of Washington. And, oh, I got a funny story for you guys. So there was a river behind the cabin, and I decided that it would be fun to try and go down, explore, fish. So we were filming, and the rock was built like this, little to my knowledge. So I was climbing up here, all happy, giddy little Alec with his socks and boots on. His boots were not waterproof, by the way. So I was filming, climb up here. That footage is actually in the episode until I get to the peak. Then it turns off, and Alec disappears. And to the crew's knowledge, Alec has disappeared. They do not know where he has gone. He probably fell into a black hole or something. Actually, Alec slid down into the water, got one of his boots wedged in between 2 rocks and in a flowing river. So my foot got pretty darn soaked, and it was wet. So I finally pulled it out. We filmed for about an hour and a half more, trying to catch fish. I don't know, for some reason, little Alec didn't find it very important to tell them that I was completely drenched. So get into the cabin again, and I sit down and I take my boot off and I pour out the water and I pour out the fish, and I crack off the ice, and they're like, "What? Why didn't you tell us? We could have been warming up and all that." But I toughed out through it, and it was all good. Also, driving up there, it was real foggy in Seattle since it was cold and it was foggy. I was not able to see the Space Needle Tower thingy, which was unfortunate. It was also foggy all the way up until we got into the mountains. Then we broke through clouds and it was like heaven, yet it was still cold. Had a snowball fight, ran around. That was real fun. It was a matter of a weekend that it was filmed in, so hope you guys appreciate our quick moving. Washington the second time, that was chilly as well. And I also made a fire in the snow one time, or a few times actually. And Washington the first time, I went down to the lake to get some ice for some reason. Oh yes, it was to dig out around. So me being the way I am, it's like, what can I do with this ice? So I decided to sit back, take out my Bear Grylls knife, and carve a beautiful ice sculpture. I made a swan. Just kidding, I'm not that talented. I made a W.
Down by the water, when it's really cold out, you can find big chunks of ice. And there's lots of things you can do with ice, like you can break it and use it as sort of a blade type knife thing, or you can use it to dig, or you can use it to sculpt. And here is my masterpiece. I carved a W with my knife. It's out of this ice. Isn't it beautiful? W for WILDerland.
Got this amazing, stunning picture of it up against this little log with snow and a beautiful mountain and a lake scenery, and it was just gorgeous. But I have become an ice sculptor artist since, and I have a very flowing business. Just kidding. Man, it's been wild. Ooh, Devil's River was another chilly episode. Man. You guys love your water shots. I, on the other hand, I don't like cold water. It's pretty cold and watery and wet and annoying, so for some reason little Alec was like, okay, happy giddy, let's go leap into the water. I think I originally did it to unsnag the bobber, which wasn't my sole purpose of getting in the water, but it was just Director Brian's way of saying, well, since you're already snagged, I guess you should get in. So I got in with my wetsuit, and oh my gosh, you guys, I still can't feel any of my limbs. It's just kind of like numb flaps flying around. It is chilly in that river.
Oh gosh. Okay. I got this. Okay. In the name of good footage, here we go!
It was so clear that it's cold, so it doesn't collect heat from the sun since it was clear. It was also the middle of winter. The night before we had gotten ice and snow, and man, it was cold. I can't move, my limbs are frozen. So I could not swim underwater, I could not dive, and I could not, well, if you guys could hear me breathing, I can't remember if you can or not, but it sounds a little something like this. As I went across the surface of the water, I was like a pug on ecstasy. I was breathing so fast and so quickly and so loud. My goodness, you guys. Another cold water pool was on one little episode. I can't remember which one exactly. It was a primitive episode, and hiked out, and there was also a very cold, clear, pretty pond. Now, if you guys had seen what happens before, it's me getting up on a rock, going like this. Okay, I'm gonna jump in, and 1, 2, okay, no, and then I get off and I turn around. And I do that about 18 times before actually jumping into the water.
Here I go. Okay, here I go. Oh my God. Ready? Here I go.
And my goodness, it was pretty cold. Chilly willy, my goodness. And then these Boy Scouts walked by and they're like, oh man, if I didn't have all these warm clothes on, I would totally jump into that pool. And I'm like, whatever, you would not. That was cold. You did not have to feel the pain.
Man, I can never be that bass. I don't know how he does it. It's so cold in there. But it was worth it because it was fun.
But, yeah, I'm not really a fan of the cold. But every once in a while I run into it and it can turn out pretty cool sometimes. I'm going to tell you guys this because it's a pretty amusing thing, but for some reason when I was little, I discovered that singing the ABCs when sneaking up on a grasshopper made it a little more calm. So I go A, B, C, D, and then I jump on it and catch it. And if I didn't do the ABCs, he would run in terror and I could never catch him. But that was always a fun little thing. I'd hold him. One time I even caught a housefly, and I took one of my hairs and made a little lasso type thing and put it around him, and he flew around and he was like on a little leash, and I don't know what I named him, but yeah, that was pretty funny because it was like a little tiny leash on him and he flew around, and then I released him later. And I have caught lots of bugs in my day. If you want to go back to before the show, I caught a big horsefly when I was little because I was at the local library. I was in this little club called the Bug Club, and this week at the Bug Club I was supposed to catch a bug of my choice and bring it in and do a little show and tell with it. So other kids got grasshoppers and whatnot, and I brought in my giant horsefly in a box about this big, and the teachers were like, okay kids, now don't let your bugs out because then we will have to catch them. I was like, oh, I would never let my bug out. So I show my bug, and then I go and sit back down and I hear buzzing, and I look up on the window and there's this big horsefly, and I'm like, oh, that looks just like my horsefly. I hold it up and my horsefly's not in there anymore. So I start freaking out, afraid that the teachers are going to see my horsefly and be like, who did that? Who let their bug out? And point at me with an evil eye. And I would get in trouble, but luckily I was able to escape without being captured, and I never went back. But yeah, I've caught some pretty crazy things in my day, including bees. I know I had a beehive on my house one time, and I would go and catch bees with a butterfly net, which was not the safest thing, but crazy enough, I've never been stung by a bee in my life, or a wasp, and I hope that continues to be the same way for a very long time. Before the show, I never would have said, well, when I grow up, I want to go work in South Africa at an animal sanctuary and be a zoologist. I know what I want to do. I'm super excited for my future, and I'm preparing for it, and I think it's very vital for me to have done the show because it's going to make my life very, very much better in the future. Now, what has the audience gained from watching the show? Well, the audience has, obviously, most of the people have enjoyed it, which makes me super happy, and they have learned lots of stuff like I have. They have learned to respect the animals. They have learned that certain species are very important to Earth, and they have actually gone out and donated and contributed to certain wildlife funds and all this cool stuff. And I think they've had a really fun time on this big adventure. And it's really cool because, like, some of our older viewers grew up doing what I do today. They didn't have video games to go and play on, and they went outside, so it was a cool experience to go back in time and see what I'm doing and remember all the fun things that they did. And someone might have connected with a childhood friend and met up with them, and I've got some really inspiring letters from people on how I have helped them by them seeing the show. And it's really cool, and in this game of adventuring, everyone helps everyone because someone who owns an animal sanctuary who one of the viewers knows, well, they'll connect me with that person, and then that person helps us out by letting us film there, and then we advertise for them, and someone who watches our show sees that, and they go there and enjoy their time, and it just goes on, and happiness is spread all over the place. So I think the
show has done a lot of good in this amount of time.
If I had $1 million, if I had $1 million, yes, I'd buy me a pot farm. Yes, I'd buy me a pot farm. Yeah! Thank you, everybody. I'll be in China next week. The best investments or items that we have purchased or come across that we have used, because a lot of the time camping takes its toll on items. I know there's things that we call jingle balls, which are actually just jingle bells like a Santa's sleigh. It's these two little things that you clip onto your rod, and bought those about a little over a year ago. It's about a year ago today or so, actually. But you clip them onto your fishing rod, and when you get a bite, if it's planted in the ground, like fishing off the bottom for catfish or whatever, then it'll tell you, it'll alarm you, because a lot of the time, if you're allowed to, I like to use 2 rods at once, so fly fish and fish off the bottom just to see what works best. And if I'm not paying attention, like making a minnow trap or sorting through my tackle box, sometimes it works really good. Like, you can hear it from way across the way. My jingle balls are actually getting a bit rusty because I've had them so long. Actually took them to the beach and yeah, had them about a year, but they worked great. Used them a time and they've done good, and they were only about 30 cents or so. Another one is we've had a flashlight. Here's one of them. We have 2 flashlights that we've had since the beginning of time that we've used for various things. This flashlight actually has a funny story. It wasn't so funny at the time, but Alec was going down the rapids at the beginning of the South Llano River episode, and it was all cool. The very beginning, one of the first shots, going down the rapid, turn. I put my hand down to stop myself, and I get back up, and I'm like, oh, good thing I didn't crack my head. Now, where's the GoPro? Oh, no. The GoPro kept moving down the rapids, and then we go down, and we're like, oh, well, hopefully it's small all the way. Nope, all of a sudden the river goes out to about a 50 feet width, and it's this huge deep area with rapids, and my goodness, we looked for about an hour. I was on the verge of giving up. Director Brian was underwater trying to find it because the water was so murky, and it was still filming, but it would have been a huge loss. There was some priceless footage on it, which were the Africa shots from like getting the shots in Iran, because it was before leaving for Africa, and we wanted to use that in the episode. So it was a very expensive GoPro plus priceless footage, and we could just not leave it. So he was a very dedicated little scuba diver dude, and he decided that he would find something about the same weight of a GoPro. And I don't know why this came to mind, because it's a lot heavier and a different shape of a GoPro, but it worked great. So we put it in a plastic bag, turned on the light, sent it down the South Llano River, and then we're like, okay, let's go try and find it now. So luckily we did actually come across it, and believe it or not, 5 feet away was our GoPro in the case, just wedged up against a rock. It was probably about a $10 or so thing, very bright, lasted a long time, and it's been a good investment and a good purchase. But made quite a few good investments and quite a few not good investments, like, oh, one time off of eBay, it showed a little person laying on the mattress. So it was supposed to be about this big, and you just blow it up, and it's good to go. And we got it in the package, and it's like about this big, deflated, and we're like, oh, well, it must get pretty big. So we blow it up, and it takes about 3 breaths to blow it up, and it's about this big, and we're like, well, unless I'm the size of my pet ferret, I don't think I can sleep on that. It doesn't even work as a pillow. It's so small, my big fat head kept rolling off. So that's, I don't know what that ended up turning into, but it was like a $20 investment, and it didn't get used once. But for the most part, we've done pretty good with our cash, and yeah.
Now, typically when you go out hiking, it's not a necessity to film everything you do. Like when I go out hiking, it's very difficult to find different camera angles, especially with GoPros because you've got to prop them up against all sorts of things. If you're on the beach, it's kind of difficult because the wind blows it over and it shifts the sand so it falls over really easily, or a big rogue wave will come up and just move it out of the place or even suck it into the ocean, so that's when you have to go diving after it. But if you're in this kind of terrain where there's big granite rocks everywhere, there's a lot more little notches and stuff that you can prop it into and use as a natural tripod. If you're climbing up in a tree, it's kind of difficult because you are moving all these branches around and it typically shakes the GoPro out of the tree, and you've got to find a place where you can squeeze it into the little branches, and it's also pointing towards you because another important thing is getting it in frame. So it's always nice to have a place like this where there's all sorts of different little places where you can prop the camera up and use as your natural tripod.
So I am out here on the beach, and when I'm out filming, some people say, "Hey Alec, it looks like you're out there all by yourself. There's no cameras or people or anything in the shot." Now I'm going to show you a cool little trick that we use to make it appear so. Now this tripod's right here, it's got a camera on it, it's filming me, and there's a GoPro down there filming this entire scene. The GoPro can obviously see this, and what we're gonna do is use the wide frame, cut to this, to where it's filming me, it can see me, it's a close-up shot, but you can't actually see the tripod. Now what we do is we take this backdrop from before the tripod's actually there, slap it over that, so it's like the tripod isn't actually there. Now, here's a little example, you guys. So I come walking in, and I'm doing the scene, and oh, there's a tripod in my way. No, there's not. Now it looks more natural. It looks a lot cooler because that tripod isn't there. It doesn't ruin the vibe of being all out by yourself. And yeah, so cool little thing, and it helps your experience of the film become better.
As you can see, I'm doing something very odd at the moment, but what I'm trying to do is make a little tool out of this little chunk of wood using my knife, and I want it to fit into the little hole on the GoPro so that I can twist the knob to secure the stand more. But as you can tell, the wood sort of breaks and crumbles, and that's because the GoPro plastic is much stronger than the wood. This wood, I think, is a little bit damp, so it sort of acts like a sponge rather than a screwdriver. Well, I'm setting up for a wake-up scene where I'm going to need to toss this stick out of the tent, but first I need to despikify it so that it does not rip a hole in the tent. And now, you see a despikified branch.
You know, you guys, when I was little, I don't know if I've told you this before, but for some reason I thought that if you pushed down your belly button, you would unfold, like all that skin would unfold and your guts would just all fall out and you die. So I was always very careful around my belly button, didn't want to poke it or anything. Spam. Now, it was used in the Primitive episode originally as kind of a joke thing, because you know they make fun of spam, like the Monty Python bit and all that, so that's what we decided to do, spam. There's something in spam that when it hits your taste buds so many times in a row, so constantly, you kind of lose the taste for it. Salt meat, I guess, is basically what it is. It's ground up meat with tons of salt in it. It can get a bit old. Yeah, I still like it with like ranch or barbecue sauce on it, but eating it by itself, man, spam, it gets a bit too much.
And now just a quick break for a little bit of spam.
If I were to have something with me every day on an island for the rest of my life, I would not choose spam. Probably choose something like a pug. I wouldn't eat the pug though. I'd just have the pug. I could live without food as long as I have a pug. But spam and food. Always before trips we go off and we buy lots of food.
We got beef stew, freeze-dried beef stew, and then we got ice cream. It's vanilla and chocolate eruption. Just kidding.
Typically we have a bit extra in the end, so we've got to do a super Thanksgiving feast at the end of each trip, and we kind of feel like a big fat lion after a nice hunt where they got those huge bellies and they can't even move. They're just kind of rolling around, sleeping and resting, digesting. Food is always fun, so for the most part get like little snacky things like goldfish, a lot of canned things like this corn here that I shouldn't show you the brand name of, but it is very delicious. It's fun to just stick a little can of whatever beans, corn into the fire. It cooks all by itself. Good to go. Hot dogs, spam, chicken breast, steaks, everything's good. Just be cautious of raccoons, because sometimes raccoons can snag your food. Luckily, we haven't had any experience with raccoons stealing anything other than fishing bait. One time he took a whole thing of shrimp, went down and sat in the bushes, set it on his big belly, eating shrimp. Big fatty, that's what we call him. He's at one of my favorite steak parks. Other than that, just anything you can grill. The cooler tends to be a bit difficult. The good thing about having cold weather like this is ice lasts about 3-4 days at a time if you're lucky. In South Padre, it's about, you refill your cooler about twice a day, because the Gulf of Mexico is hot during the summer and it gets annoying. A lot of the time, food can go bad, so just be cautious. This is one of the first trips that we started trying candy, which can be a good little treat to have every once in a while. Keeps your electrolytes up, or however that works. Electrolytes, that come from candy, that comes from Gatorade, but gives you energy to do stuff and that. And since you work off so many calories when you're out camping, it doesn't matter what you eat. You could eat cookies all the time. One good tip, if you guys are going out camping, get like a plastic box that with a lid for a bread box. It works great to keep your bread from getting stale. Put all your bread products like muffins and bagels and crackers and all that good stuff in there. But yeah, food's a fun little thing to have when you're camping, and you kind of need it.
Hello there. So I'm in South Africa at the moment, and first up I have my malaria pill here. See, eases that every day so I don't get sick. And then I have some milk, and then over here I have some Marmite, and this you spread on your toast in very thin layers. I don't like it very much, but some people do. Now over here I have some little candies, and they're really cool candies. They're from South Africa. See, they're really colorful. They got black licorice in them. And then over here I have some iced zoo biscuits, and they've got little animals on them. They're really good. They're sweet.
Well, Bigfoot. I think I've spotted Bigfoot at the beach a few times in his swimming trunks, having people rub sunscreen all over his body while he sunbathes. But I don't know, that might have been a Bigfoot imposter. I have been in some of the most popular Bigfoot territories before, and not yet have I seen him. But just because you don't see it does not mean that it's not real. Just like I haven't seen the giant fish that I am supposedly supposed to catch one of these times. I haven't seen him, but that doesn't mean he's not real, so I'm just waiting. But yes, Bigfoot is, I guess, a descendant, or is a Yeti, and apparently there's different species according to all those History channels, I think it is. Yeah, History Channel shows where they go out and try and find Bigfoot. And yeah, it's pretty interesting what they've come up with in order to track him down, such as calls and beating on a tree with a stick. But Bigfoot, I guess I can't really give you a straight answer other than, yeah, I think it's possible that he does exist. It's just since Bigfoot probably can't fly off in his spaceship and isn't an advanced species that has a lot more knowledge about the cosmos and all that compared to us, it's pretty coincidental that Bigfoot hasn't been taken in a picture where someone has remembered to turn on their focus. So they need autofocus cameras because people always seem to get either an arm, a leg, or a badly focused picture. Yes, I guess if we can get more people to go outside, maybe one of these days someone will get a good picture of Bigfoot and everyone will then know that he is real.
We have made sort of a blueprint thing. Hopefully we can actually make it one day, because that'd be really cool. But it consists of all the things that we say, oh, it'd be so cool if a park had this, or oh, they really need this, such as fish charts at each on the water campsite to tell people, educate people about what type of fish they could be catching.
And we are going to have 3 ponds. Now, one pond is going to be a fly fishing pond with most of the obstacles in the area cleared out, so you're able to get it in there without a challenge for like beginner fly fishermen because it's a very enjoyable sport. You can stock the pond to make sure people catch it and are pleased, because the worst things when people go out fishing and they don't catch anything, so they're done with it. They don't give it another chance because some people have a very short tolerance. And we're going to have another pond, which is just basic fishing, cast out lure, everything, have that one stocked. And then we're going to have, try and have an ocean, because it'd be really cool to have ocean fishing as well in the area.
Bathroom doors. Now imagine sitting, you don't think this would happen anywhere, but I have come across it actually. Now imagine you have to go number 2 and you are sitting in a stall and there's no door. And there's stalls all the way along. Like, people just walk by and they're like, oh, hey, Joe, how's it going? It's like, oh, I'm almost done getting to the wiping session. Okay, well, be successful. I'm going to go down here. Like, people just walk by and they can see you sitting there. And there's no thing right here. Like, it goes up to your shoulder so you can look over at the guy pooping next to you and be like, oh, I can see you had corn for dinner last night. Like, it's a weird little contraption. I've actually found that at one of my favorite state parks. And I don't know if they just don't have the funds to add doors. At least they added the little cover thing so you can't look at Bob over there having the Hershey squirts. Like, that's not something you want to see. But people can walk by and just see you sitting there on the toilet in all your glory. Like, that's not... So typically what I do when I'm there, there doesn't tend to be too many people there, which is a weird thing because I really love the place. But put a jacket up or something so they know not to go over there, to use the stalls ahead of you, and I try and go as far down as I can so that people aren't walking by to another stall, unless there's someone checking all the stalls to make sure. It's like, oh, which one do I want? Do I want this one? Do I want that? Oh, hello, Alec. Sorry, I didn't mean to intrude.
And we're going to have geocaches and lots of trails with trash cans every, I don't know, maybe 30 feet, just to help convince people not to throw their trash on the ground, because that's what happens when people have a short amount of tolerance. Then they are like, okay, I can't carry this bottle anymore, and throw it into the woods, thus knocking a raccoon unconscious, and he gets eaten by vultures, and you already killed off one animal. That's not very good. Also gonna have like the normal stuff, like a first aid station just in case someone does get hurt, the camp store with everything you need, such as firewood, ice, fire starters, food, like simple food like egg salad sandwiches, all that stuff, and boat rentals, and I guess fishing supply rentals, and also going to have an air-conditioned picnic area just in case it is too hot for people to stand. If there's an old fragile old lady that cannot stand the heat, she needs to go in and eat her egg salad sandwiches with her dentures under an air-conditioned area, because she's not gonna last. And another big part of being out in the wilderness is identification of certain species of anything, like animals, plants, fish, bugs, all sorts of stuff, because it's good to try and teach people about nature. They need to learn while they're out there to become more aware of what's around them. And if you're like me and you're out filming, it's always cool to say, well, I just learned that the pike is a predatory fish and has sensory pores on the bottom of its bill, and that's what those things are, so it can hunt and sense electro waves from fish muscles. Like, just cool little facts like that, and a picture like in front of the lake or something. And another thing is, I've seen like some Eagle Scout projects where they go out and plant these PVC pipe tube things where you put fishing line in to recycle, because fishing line is very not good for animals if they get tangled in it. Some people actually have biodegradable fishing line, which is really cool as well. And yeah, we're gonna have recycle stations as well, like not just trash cans, like bottle recycle, all that. A nature center as well, with cool little animals that you can interact with and look at them, and have very informative rangers there working to teach you about the animals, and to have very nice rangers, no mean old rangers that go and yell at you for playing with a stick or something. We're gonna have them be informative, friendly, and helpful. And we're also going to have an area, a big open field of untouched land with trees and all the necessities for certain forms of life, and just have it like for animals to go there and browse and do what they want, where people are able to see what natural wildlife actually looks like, because it's pretty rare nowadays. and where people can't go walking through and travel, they can stand outside and watch, or maybe like a little tour where there's a bridge going over it and you can walk over and look at everything. But yeah, it's just going to be very safe and a good experience for people and animals.
For some reason, I seem to be like the only child on Earth who enjoys organizing. It makes me feel nice because afterwards everything's organized. But there's a trick to organizing that comes almost every time I organize. And being out in the wild, you need certain things at certain times. So let's say I organize this on top of this on top of this. So let's say it's a Cheez-It box on top of a bullfrog on top of a pillowcase. And you need the Cheez-It box. Oh, well now you gotta move the bullfrog, and the bullfrog hops away, and you drop the pillowcase, and it's all unorganized now. So I like to organize quite a bit, just clean up the car a little bit, just to have things a little easier to grasp. But then, you know, everyone's like, oh, well, where's this at this time, or where's this, because I moved everything. So it gets a bit annoying, and sometimes organizing, I guess, isn't the best thing. It's just trying to cram everything into the trunk. Now, there's one cool thing about our adventure car is that you can fit tons of stuff in the trunk. Now, the rental car that we have right now, since we kind of just flew into Texas, has a weird trunk where the little bar comes down when you close it, so you can't fit stuff in, and it takes a lot of organizing to fit everything in. But organizing with the big car, even during the big adventure, we had so much stuff. We had a car top carrier and a huge trunk, and we still could not fit everything in properly. Now, at the beginning of the trip, one of our Oklahoma producer decided that we should have a basketball, and it was a very nice thought. It was fun, but we didn't use it the rest of the time, and we brought it with us. Now, we set it on top of boxes, and a lot of the time our car was at an angle, so we open the trunk and the basketball comes out and goes rolling, and someone has to go chase it. And I guarantee you, every single time, man, that basketball went rolling, rolling, rolling. But yeah, that was a little funny thing that happened every time we opened the trunk.
Proudest moments. Well, I've got a few, but probably one of the coolest was in the Oklahoma episode. I interacted with a troop of Boy Scouts. Now, it's always been an idea for me to become a Boy Scout. It's been cool, but it's just too much work with the show and everything. I'd have to take off time. So there's a lot of things that would get in the way and interfere with being a Boy Scout, so I never got into it. And while we were filming in Oklahoma, we did herping day. We went out with the Boy Scouts and caught collared lizards, milk snakes, worm snakes, toads, frogs, all sorts of stuff. And at the end, we were doing the wrap-up, and I was just doing my normal wrap-up, like, okay, you guys, so we were in Oklahoma and had a blast, got to catch all sorts of cool snakes, and got to touch some creatures that I've never touched before, and all sorts of stuff like that. And then I heard someone from behind me say, excuse me, Alec, and I was like, oh, what? And I was about to turn and say, cut, because, yeah, we got interrupted and we had to restart. I thought they were going to ask me, like, well, should I stand over here or what? But anyways, for some reason, I did decide to be quiet, and I turned around, and the Boy Scout troop was there, and awesome enough, they welcomed me to their troop, and I became a Boy Scout, so that was really cool. I was super excited for that, and I forgot most of what I was going to say for the ending part, so that was unfortunate. But yeah, it was really cool. I was super glad. I couldn't thank them enough for that.
You're doing all kinds of great things with Leave No Trace, just all the stuff you're doing now. It's just, you fit right into the model that we're trying to teach these other guys. You're certainly our good role model for our boys.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for everything you do.
And it was really cool to become a part of that troop.
Social media, you guys. That is a big part of my off time. My goodness, every day I dedicate as much time as I can. So I apologize to you guys if I ever miss any of you guys, or if I'm not on, because, you know, I try my hardest, but along with school and family time and being a kid and all sorts of other stuff, there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that doesn't get presented, but it's a lot of work. Social media, though, I really love talking to you guys. You're all over the world, from Germany, from America, from Canada, from Mexico, from Russia. You guys are everywhere, all over the place, in New Zealand, Australia, and South Africa, and all sorts of different countries. You guys are everywhere. And so it's really cool to talk to you guys. I've really gotten to know about other places in the world. I really appreciate it when you guys ask me questions, because that's mainly what social media is all about, is going in there and being like, oh, well, I can answer that question for you. And I also apologize if I skip by some of you guys, because I know there's a lot of people who are like, oh, hi, Alec, or I love the show, and sometimes I'll just kind of skip by it, because every once in a while I'm in a rush and I'm looking for questions. But other than that, love to talk to you guys, carry on a conversation and all that. But social media can get to be a lot of work. I don't spend too much time on the computer, and that's what social media is. That's where social media is located, is on the computer. So it's really hard for me to sit down and stare at a computer and type. But I guess it's part of the show, and it's one thing that needs to be done. So I try and do it as best as I can. And yes, you guys, for the most part, it is all run by me. You guys are talking to me. I am tweeting to you. Unless it's like a new episode, it's always me. Like, I tweet you guys pictures of Ruby. I talk to you guys about whatever you guys show me. I say, oh, that's awesome, with a little smiley face. And another thing about social media is, especially on Twitter, I always have 3 less characters than all you guys, because I always have to do a smiley face, you know, the colon and the parenthesis, or the colon and the capital D. You know, I always got to do that. So it's space, colon, and then capital D or whatever. So that's 3 characters taken away, and that's a lot on Twitter, especially if you attach a picture. So a lot of the time I kind of got to downsize on my stuff, and I try not to abbreviate, doing like TTYL and all that weird texting lingo stuff. But yeah, social media is kind of a big struggle for me, because I'm not that type of kid that does that kind of computer stuff. Like, if I didn't have the show, I would not be on any form of social media whatsoever. But it's you guys that drag me on there, because I love talking to you guys, and it's very cool to hear about what you guys think and all sorts of good stuff. A lot of the time when I'm doing the social media as well, it's when I've got some free time, because a lot of the time when I'm like sitting at home, I don't always have free time. So when I'm transporting from place to place, like let's say I'm going from one park to another park, sitting on the road, if I get some, sorry, 1 second. If I get some signal, it's always good to tweet or Facebook or Kik or Instagram or whatever I want to do. So that's a lot of the time is social media spent on the road, trying to cover all you guys, because there's a lot of you.
The existence of aliens is a very difficult topic. My brother loves to surf the internet, so he's got the scoop on all that. He always tells me about stuff, so I'm very skeptical on whether or not the existence of aliens exists. But the galaxies are humongous, let alone the universe, so there is most likely different life forms on other planets that are sustainable to life, not necessarily carbon-based life like humans are, maybe some different other elements that we don't understand. Yeah, the human race is advanced, just probably not advanced enough to understand all the different things on other planets and all that, like way far away from us, because there's crazy things that we haven't learned yet. And I think that aliens do exist, because it's probably very likely. The numbers in my mind are good. I don't know about that crazy Bill Bob out on his farm who got abducted by aliens and probed. I think he might be a little bit crazy. But yeah, I think the existence of aliens is real. They might even be on Earth right now. And they're just so advanced that we aren't able to tell that they are actually there. Sometimes I think maybe we're in a little jar, like a little kind of experiment for aliens, that they put us little life forms, humans, on Earth, and every once in a while they'll come and check us out, like when you see a UFO or something. But yeah, just in short-term talks, I think that aliens do exist.
I know a lot of viewers care a lot about me, and they're like, oh no, I don't want to see Alec get hurt. They like bloopers though, so we put out some bloopers. It's just, there's not that much, because a lot of the time when I do something stupid, it's not on film, which is very hard to capture. And yeah, so let's see, a few ouches. The first take of I can't remember what episode this is exactly. I remember all these state parks, but I can't remember the exact episode, so sorry about that, you guys. But we were filming in the Crystal Cave at Gardner State Park. And it was, okay, take one, scene one, and action. So I'll set the scene for you guys. I'm in a cave. I'm squatted down. I'm going to stand up and you're going to see my silhouette. And it's going to be graceful and I'm going to strut out. And action. Crack! Hit my head on this cave and I fall and drop to the floor. And from my experience, it was I stood up and I hit my head and my head felt like Play-Doh for a second and then I hit the ground. And you could hear it echo, you could hear the big crack on the camera. Birds flew when my skull smashed against the cave. I was okay. I was asked if I was okay and I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm fine, let's keep filming. But it was a pretty funny start to the episode. But then I had to bruise skull the rest of the time.
In caves, there's lots of things to watch out for. You don't know what's down there. There could be snakes, bats, bears, anything. You gotta be careful not to hit your head. Trust me, I've already done it a couple times.
Let's see, some other ouches. There was one filming Primitive. I was out in a boot and I was next to this pond thing. I was walking along and I almost slipped once, and then I did slip and I fall and my arm goes behind my face and my head smacks the ground. It's the funniest thing. I watched that over and over and laughed so hard. My head bouncing off the rock. But yeah, that was a bit of an ouch. I don't remember it, so it must have knocked out my memory. But for the most part, whenever I get whenever I get hurt, I laugh. Yeah, see, you guys, the brain damage is kicking in. I can't speak properly. But I'm sure there's quite a few other ouches. In Australia, as soon as we started filming, I think it was this hand, or it was this hand. It was one of these two hands. But we just had started filming at this little tide pool, and I was getting down into the tide pool to film with my face underwater, and I sliced my hand on the rock, because those rocks are like razors, and I looked at my hand underwater, and it's like, it reminded me of that Castaway, the scene in Castaway where the blood's coming out of his foot on the reef. Like, that's just what it looked like.
It was like a Castaway where the blood was coming out underwater.
Because it was a nice cut right down the side, or right down the palm of my hand. And I could see it coming out, so I'm like, okay, well, we wrapped it up, and it was burning because of salt water, but it did sterilize it. But that was all good. Then at the kangaroo farm, that parrot thingy that flew around, at first it was all shy of me, and then, yeah, it flew in, but when it landed, it caught my ear and cut this ear, and it was staying on my shoulder, like pecking my ear and stuff, and then it flew on my other shoulder and cut my other ear, so I had 2 cuts inside of my ear, like on that little inner dome hole part of my ear hole area, and so I had 2 little cuts there. Then there was one time I was eating a banana muffin and I got my foot stuck on a root and I tripped and fell into the water face first and hit my knee, but most of my injuries haven't been that bad at all. Like in Oklahoma, when I caught this little milk snake and he kept striking my hand and biting me, and a little tiny drop of blood came out, so I got a snake bite patch and I was so happy. But I've had all sorts of little injuries, but you know, you guys, that's just part of the exploring thing. Like over the past 3 years, I've broken 2 bones at school. I've broken 0 bones out in the wild. Like, the most I've gotten injured is inside. Like, I had a broken wrist one time, and I was running around the corner, and I slipped on my socks and almost broke my other wrist. I thought it was broken, but it was just sprained, so I had 2 casts on at once. And yeah, so inside's more dangerous for me, so you guys don't worry
it's not that dangerous outside for me, so it's just the part of it. It's just part of exploring. Out and about when I'm camping, like to pick up trash whenever I can, clean up the trails, and one of the largest little trips that I made to pick up trash was Leave No Trace. And man, I picked up tons of trash there, big bags of trash, cleaned up this little trail, and also I've hit a geocache at a park of not to be named, to ensure the sentimental value of finding it, so I don't give away the answer to you guys, but if you do come across it, it's got our logo on it, so you know for sure. But yeah, leaving a geocache at the park really, we came back and talked to the ranger, and he said that it's really helped out with people coming, because it's been a pretty busy geocache, because a lot of the time people will be like, oh, there's a geocache here, how about I go grab it, and they check out the park, and they're like, oh, that's pretty cool, because before that there was only one other geocache there, which happened to be a state geocache. Oh, and then there's always, when we went to South Africa and we had raised that bunch of money with from the campaign with the help of you guys, we took a portion of it. It was $1,000 and we gave it to Dave, the warden of the Sabi Sands Rhino Protection Service deal, and they were very thankful for that.
Are you Dave?
I'm Dave, I am.
Are you in charge of protecting all of the wonderful rhino?
I'm David, I'm the warden of the Sabi Sands. Yes, I am. Pleased to meet you.
My name's Alec, and I'm from the WILDerland of Texas.
Pleased to meet you, Alex. Welcome here.
I've traveled all the way up from southern Africa to give you something.
And what is that, Alex?
On behalf of my show and people all around the world who care about rhinos, I have a check for you.
Goodness gracious, that's very kind of you.
For...
If you can find it.
$1,000.
Goodness gracious, Alex. Thank you very much, and thank you to all your folks back home. I really appreciate it. We really need this here with us. It's a massive big fight with rhino poaching out here, and it's a big war. So this money will be very well spent. Thank you very much for this. Oh no, you're a good man. Thank you, Alex.
Well, thank you so much for protecting the rhino.
Thank you.
Something I really care about, and you're helping it.
Thank you. Yeah. We study conservation for a reason, because we've something very close to our hearts and minds. And these rhinos being slaughtered for greed, it's totally unnecessary. And this money will be very well spent for our field rangers out there. They need night vision goggles for nighttime, bulletproof jackets. It's a war out there, and these are the poor guys that's staying out there day and night to try and preserve our rhinos. So thank you very much, and say thanks to everybody back home. We really appreciate this. Very kind of you.
Well, thank you.
You're a good man. Thank you very much. Thanks, Alex. Keep well. And travel safe. It's a long way back home. And go.
Yep.
Keep well. Thanks, Alex. Keep well.
Thank you.
Okay. Nice job, you guys.
How do you do this every day? Yeah. You're a good man. $1,000. Thank you, Alex. That's really awesome. That's really, really good. Thanks, man.
It's money well spent.
They were able to buy whatever, night vision goggles, guns, vests, whatever they needed to do. And for that amount of money, so $1,000, 10,000 South African rand, you are able to actually pay for one of the poisoning of a rhino's horn. So if they wanted to, they could use that money to do the little process of flying down in a helicopter, tranquilizing the rhino, poisoning his horn so it is not suitable for human consumption, and then letting the rhino wake back up and flying away. And then they put signs around that tell the poachers that the rhino horns are poison, so it deters them. So who knows what it went to, but I'm sure it was a very good cause. When I was in Australia and I caught that big red emperor, I gave the red emperor at the end of the trip to two guys who were originally from England, and they were adventuring down in Australia. They were going to take it to a wedding that they were going to and serve it to everybody. So that's a pretty original little wedding snack, is a big freshly caught red emperor. A pretty eventful day for that guy. In 10 years I'll be 23. I will be probably on Earth. I'm kidding. well, I probably will be on Earth, but my dream would be to either take off with the show, turn it into a TV production, and be able to inform all sorts of people about endangered species and the importance of getting outside. Maybe turn it into an organization so that we're able to go around to schools and talk about them and tell them all that stuff without being on TV. I would like to be a zoologist in the future. My dream would probably be to be able to go to South Africa and work with endangered species there, such as rhinoceros and all sorts of other stuff, and own my own animal sanctuary and be able to tell people all about what I do and the importance of why the endangered species are important, and be able to take care of animals. I'd like to interact with animals in my future. That's what job I would like to pursue. And yeah, that's about it. Now, when we film, we cut everything down to a certain minimal time in order to fit it into the episode, because our big thing is getting outside and not sitting in front of the computer too long. So when we go out and film, what we'll typically do is do very long shots, like me fishing or me talking, and we'll just keep the cameras rolling, and sometimes something cool will happen. Like a bird flies in front of the sun and creates a perfect silhouette where his wings touch each side of the sun. It's really cool. Or we'll be filming the ocean waves and a sea turtle will pop up. One really cool thing that we like to do is to put in little beauty shots, like if you're watching a National Geographic show or something, and it's talking about how the pygmy marmoset is a very territorial animal and all that. I don't know if that's true, don't quote me on it. But then this little lizard is like walking up a branch or something. Just little beauty shots that you cut to.
A lot of the time you've got to get to places where people don't go much, like primitive things. You'll get some really cool shots a lot of the time, and sometimes it's just the weather, like how the weather plays out. If there's a certain amount of moisture in the air, it'll make up for a beautiful sunset. Have some really beautiful sunsets on the beach, in the desert. Beautiful stars. That's natured landscape-ish, I guess stars qualify. Just lots of really cool little things that I've come across. Some really cool polished rocks. Up in Washington, they had like the where glaciers came through. There's really rounded rocks everywhere, and you get lichen on them, so they're colorful.
So, I am relaxing on a nice smooth rock, and it's smoother than some rocks around here, and that is because of glacier movement. It has polished the rock to a fine curve, and yeah, so glaciers have a big effect on nature, as you can see.
Lots of beautiful places everywhere. Nature and landscape. The Keys were very beautiful in the flats, where you get the clear water going all the way out, and sometimes if you watch closely you can see like bonefish or tarpon or snook swimming around out there, and you get the water birds since it's shallow all the way out. Get the palm trees, and it just makes for like a screensaver perfect shot. So just some really, really cool places out there. You just gotta get out there, depending on what you like, and go to places that there's not a lot of human activity. One thing that we always like to try and do in the episodes is show you the landscape, because it's a very cool thing, and a lot of the time people don't stop and take in the beauty. Like it's something you're walking by. If you look closely, it's actually a very amazing creation, and sometimes the cameras just don't do it justice. So I really encourage you guys to get out there and see it with your own eyes, because you really get some amazing colors in your eyes.
So, there's one thing that I wish we would have got more of while filming, because we got all sorts of cool stuff all the time, but one thing that we've never been able to capture is stars. Now, the stars are really cool for all sorts of different reasons. If you got your constellations down, you can locate the planets and he'll make little shapes out of all the stars and even tell your sense of direction with Polaris, which is the North Star. Their light takes quite a while to travel all the way to Earth, so that star could be dead and exploded by now and you're still seeing it. But it's really cool to take time and stargaze, especially on a night like this when there isn't a moon or you're not in the city where the sky is clear, no clouds. That's another good thing about stars, is it means there's no clouds in the sky, which means you most likely won't get rained on. But this is perfect like stargazing territory because I'm out in nature. Other than the fire and my light, it's pretty easy to see stars, but you just sit there and watch and you'll start to see all these little things going on. It's like a little city. And right now I see, probably about 100 or so stars, but if you sit there and let your eyes adjust to night vision mode, you will see little satellites going around, you will see the Milky Way galaxy, or even if you're lucky, a shooting star. Probably the best place, or one of the best places I've ever seen stars at, Devil's River was really cool. I got to see all sorts of stars there.
If you look at the stars, it's really, really clear out since it's so remote, and you can see every little star in the sky. There's a lot of cool constellations. And what I can see tonight, I can see like the Big Dipper. I don't know if you guys can see it. I can see the Big Dipper, the Milky Way is really distinct.
And even then we weren't able to capture them on film. We tried real hard, and that was pretty cold there. I don't know if that makes a difference on how the stars look. Oh, I thought that bug was a shooting star. It was also really cool in Australia, especially way out in the outback or right on the coast where there's not that much traffic or pollution. You can really see them. And in South Africa, when you're in the African bush, it was really cool. And since you're down there, you can actually see different constellations like the Southern Cross and all sorts of cool things. Let's see, the first shooting star I've ever seen was at a campground called Krause Springs, and I was laying out in the parking lot, or not the parking lot, a big like open field place with some of my family and crew, and so that's when I saw my first one. It was shooting across the sky. It wasn't the brightest one, but it was still really cool to see. I wished for a pug. I think my wish might be a bit delayed yet. Might take a while, but I know it's going to happen sometime.
Yeah, for the most part, rangers at parks are pretty awesome. I kind of make up names for them a lot. Let's see, there's Ranger Cash is the first one that comes to mind, as I am at the park right now where he is located. Now, Ranger Cash is super awesome. And the reason I call him Cash is because he helped us hide the geocache. A lot of rangers are very informative, tell you whatever you need to know. A lot of them are very happy to help you out. They love what they're doing. Some rangers not so much. There was a ranger at one of the parks. He was a very cool ranger because he was out and about riding his horse every day. He'd be like an old western sheriff with his little ranger patch on and his little ranger suit and ride around on his horse, clop, and ride around on all the trails and stuff. So that was a pretty cool thing. That's the first time I've ever seen a ranger on a horse. Then there's Ranger Bob. Ranger Bob is a very fun little ranger. It was a little over a year and a half ago or so that I met Ranger Bob. It was a little beach seminar I went to, and he was trying to find ghost crabs. Now, if you guys know anything about ghost crabs, they aren't that hard to find during the night. During the day, it's a little bit different. I've caught thousands of ghost crabs, big and small, throughout my life, and Ranger Bob decided that he was going to go dig out a ghost crab. Their holes go down in a J, and that is to prevent a predator from coming down, like digging down, so it curves out and the sand kind of buries so they don't see. Or if rain was to come in, it doesn't flood up the whole thing. It stops when it hits ground level. And Ranger Bob got his shovel ready. He came out in his whole suit. It was about 110 degrees that day. So he got down on his knees in the sand, starts digging. All the kids are watching him. About halfway through, that's when he started getting sweaty, so his clothes were slipping and his plumber crack was hanging out. And you could see armpit stains and sweat running down his face. And he was a fairly overweight man. But it was, I don't want to be mean, but it was kind of amusing. Unfortunately, Ranger Bob never did discover the elusive ghost crab, but he sure tried pretty hard. He also presented sargassum to me, which has been a huge help, so thank you, Ranger Bob. That was really cool. He went out in his suit in the water and showed us the sargassum, and I showed you guys that. And had quite a few guides. Went and saw Kyle, the dude on the rafting service. Did a little interview with him and told us all about that and pointed out some, like a bald eagle and all that cool stuff. And it was very kind of him to talk to the camera, and I was glad we were able to include that on the episode. And he was a bit camera shy at first, but he did great. And then there was also Jerry the expert, who was a very cool dude. Showed me how to throw a boomerang, so I've got that down now, and play the gum leaf. And Jerry, I don't know if you know this, but your zipper was down the whole time, and lucky for you, we edited it out so nobody saw. But yeah, you were awesome, so thanks a ton if you're watching this. And then there was also Basil. Now, Basil has probably been one of my favorite guides. He was in South Africa, and that was one wild dude. His house was amazing, full of stuff.
Okay, so Basil was kind enough to let me take a look around his house, and there's really cool stuff everywhere. But there's some buffalo, and the birdie. Say hi, bird. You don't want to talk. And over here, there's all sorts of cool stuff. Sewing machine. There's his famous hat. Uses that for everything. It's got so many uses.
So knowledgeable. First time I ever met him, and he was friendly, took me on right away, showed me everything. I was a bit little and shy at that time. I wish I would have been a little more quick, because he was pretty quick on his feet too. Like, we had gotten down to film, and he was already down at the water talking. Like, the cameras were always filming. I guess that's what he had expected. And he turned around and about ran me over. He was ready to go, and I was like, "Oh, don't want to get stepped on by him." And when he was pulling out in his truck, driving around with me on top of the little bucky part thing, and he actually ran over a GoPro. And there was no stopping him. He was like a train without brakes. He was on the move, but worked out great. Real cool personality, and really fun experience.
So, see, people sometimes ask me what's the most difficult thing about filming, and it's mainly other people. And I've also got a cool little fact. When there's this, it's too obvious. The child is screaming. Okay, you guys, so now time for a geology lesson. And as you can hear the wild child doing its mating call over there. Oh, and this mica has really little. Up there goes the wild children again. Because when you're at a campground, there's other people, obviously, especially during summers or weekends. As you can hear, there were just some fireworks going off, and those people are probably a few miles away, but it is interfering with my filming, and they don't know it, so they can't stop. But yeah, like sometimes there's people walking around that we gotta try and keep out of the shot, or talking, or people throwing rocks in the water while I'm trying to fish. But
there's always those happy families with 1,000 kids who like to run around and scream and throw stuff. There was this one time we were camping across from this other family, and they had a hammock tied between two trees. And for some reason, the dad found it would be a good idea to take his two toddlers and set them in the hammock and push the hammock back and forth. And oh, it's like a crib rocking, until he decided to take his Arnold Schwarzenegger arms and whip them around. And they did a few 360s around the tree. They were just screaming. I don't know if it was out of fear or out of fun, but those children were flying. And then the guy who was pushing them was also named Brian. And if you don't know, my director's name is Brian, and the wife was very needy, so she's always like, Brian, come help me. Brian, come do this. So Director Brian's always turning around like, what do you need, random lady? Oh, you're talking to a different Brian. Because if you don't know, pre-adolescent children like me at the time sound a lot like women. A lot of the time you get really nice ones that are responsible, camp like normal people do, which that's the majority of campers, because people who go camping are a lot of the time really cool, outdoorsy, fun people. But a lot of the time, or I guess, yeah, I have to say a lot of the time, because I've experienced quite a bit. There's those college students, high school students that decide to bring 18 bottles of liquor and 5 pounds of marijuana. And it can get a bit annoying and smelly. It's not a fun group to be around, but sometimes it can get a bit humorous. We're always very responsible. We look at the weather, and we knew there was going to be a big storm coming. And about 11 at night, these guys had pulled in. We were just getting ready to go to bed. It was some neighbors, and they decided that they were going to put up their giant A-frame tent thing. It was like 100 feet tall, and not really put the rain fly on properly or something. They were a bit flying high on the marijuana plant, and they had also had a bit to drink, and you could see it clearly. So they were doing that, and we got out in the middle of the night, which was about 3 a.m. or something, and those guys were still out, but a storm was starting. So the wind picks up, then the rain starts coming, and those guys are trying to hold down their tent because they didn't stake it in because they were a bit up in La La Land at the time. So their tent's about flying off, and they're trying to hold it down and put the rain fly on so their tent doesn't get soaked. And it's so funny watching these little intoxicated people running around trying to complete something that you need to be a bit experienced to do. So it was a good laugh. Fortunately, they did not lose their tents to the wind, and the storm stopped.
It's in there. Oh, yeah, my favorite scene would have to be being in Timby's pen with her, because that was an experience like nothing else, and she was so cute, and she had a soft belly and soft ears, and I liked to pet her. And yeah, it was fun seeing her for the first time and actually getting that close to a rhino, because I'm sure most people haven't done that, and if poaching continues the way that it is, they never will do that. So it was very fun to see Timby, and hopefully she's still doing well, and I'm hoping to go back and see her sometime soon.
Spiders, yeah, I love my spiders. I love all nature. But sometimes venomous spiders, such as the black widow or the brown recluse, can get a bit scary. Daddy longlegs, there's a lot at a lot of state parks. They sit around in big clumps in nature, and if you go up and touch them, they all start doing like the Oompa Loompa dance, or like Oompa Oompa. For some reason, they like to do that, or they run around. And when I was little, I was kind of cruel. I would smush daddy longlegs and watch their legs twitch around. I don't recommend that because the daddy longlegs don't have very much fun. Then other spiders, I always loved little jumping spiders. They were so cute with the little eyes, and they go bing, bing, bing. But they're kind of scary when you're like, oh, it's a little spider that leaps on your face, and you're like, ah! Freaking out trying to get him off.
That's scary.
I know a lot of people have arachnophobia, so staying clear of those little guys, because they do leap, and they may go inside of one of your nostrils or onto your eyeballs. Now to venomous spiders. Ever since the story I'm about to tell you, I always check under picnic tables, making sure there's no spiders, because one time in the Monahan Sand Dunes, I was kind of squatting down, I guess you could say, like this, sitting in shorts, roasting marshmallows, because I had a charcoal grill up here, and all of a sudden I felt something tickling my leg, and it was dark. So I looked down, and there is a black widow, about leg to leg, about this big, had this huge big butt. And let me tell you guys, I have never reacted so fast. I was like Jackie Chan. It was just, I was karate chopping, I made a sound. And I was like, oh my goodness, there was a black widow, and I was shaking. And the guts were splattered everywhere. And it was pretty darn scary, because there was a poisonous spider on my leg. And if it would have bit me, it very well could have been a bad ending. But I am a master in karate, so luckily for me, he did not sink his fangs into me. But other than that, I've had a lot of luck with venomous spiders. So just always make sure to check under picnic tables, because they do climb out. That's where that one came out from. It's under here. I'm sorry, Black Widow. I didn't have the intent of going there to murder you, but you left me no choice. Well,
me, my favorite type of fish, now I like most all fish. Sunfish kind of get on my nerves every once in a while when they just come up and eat your bait off your hook and all that multiple times. But I guess I like all fish that put up a fight, such as carp, big ocean fish. That red emperor was pretty fun. Walleye, northern pike, all sorts of stuff. But I guess since they're all kind of the same for me when I fight, I'm going to depict it by my favorite to eat, and that would have to be walleye.
I know we started the adventure vlogs during the big adventure during the summer. Can't remember which state. It started during the big adventure, so because it was a promise with the campaign. Ow, my hair! I just ripped out my hair. But adventure vlogs, if you don't know what they are kind of just a little short, saying, "What's up, you guys? So I am out here in insert state, and I am insert event." Doing this, and I came across this insert object. So that's a little update, you guys, and thanks for watching, and ta-ta! And I just do that little thingy, and it's kind of just a fun little way to do updates. It's like Keeks, but since we don't have very many followers on Keeks, the adventure vlogs get a little bit more views, so it spreads to more people, because not all people know that we have a Keek account. But yeah, they're just a cool little thing to present you guys with what I am up to and what I came across.
Hello everybody, it is a beautiful day in Key Largo, and I am at John Pennekamp Coral Reef State Park. Now the big thing at this park is snorkeling and scuba diving, and I'm about to try out some snorkeling in this beautiful clear water right here. Now, I had a very big day today, and I got to interact with some really cool animals, excuse me. But yeah, I'm gonna start heading back up north because sadly the big adventure is almost complete. So it was really cool going everywhere. Had tons of fun everywhere. I got to do some amazing stuff. But yeah, also gonna try out some fishing. I don't know if I'll catch anything, but hopefully I will. Gonna be positive because I haven't caught much yet, but I gotta catch something big before I leave because that's one of my big things is fishing, you guys. Yeah, I had a great time in the Keys, and it's a beautiful place, you guys. Just a warning, before you do come here, make sure to bring lots of sunscreen and water. Isn't that right, Mr. Seagull? Yes, it is.
Signal is a very difficult thing to get, and in order to upload something onto YouTube, you need signal. So that was typically when we were transporting from one place to another, we'd stop at a place with signal and try and upload that onto YouTube. And it's just a cool little way to fill in the gaps in between episodes, like we do wildlife or adventure vlogs or whatever. But because episodes kind of take a while to come out, because they take a while to film, they take a while to edit, they take a while to be released, and we try and kind of space them out. So it's always good to have wildlife and adventure vlogs in between. So I hope you've enjoyed the feature film and hearing all about what it's like to film Alec WILDerland, all my funny little stories, and I sure enjoyed sharing all my stories with you guys. And I'm about to hit the sack soon, so hopefully I'll see Nicolas Cage again, but I'll have my phone with me and charged so I can take a picture with him, and I'll show it to you guys in my dream as well. But stay wild is a phrase that I use quite a bit, as you guys have probably noticed, and other people started using it a bit. Like my grandma says it to me at the end of text or phone calls, and it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people.
Now, what I picture is you have a passion for something. You have a passion for being outdoors, you have a passion for animals, and that's pretty wild. It's your own little thing, and it's something that you enjoy. So, you want to stay that way. You want to not be influenced by anything else, to not do what you love. So, if you want to stay wild, then you're going to continue doing what you're doing. I am telling you guys to stay who you are. Now, what you have going on, what you care about, what you like going out and doing, like for me, it's camping and showing you guys everything and endangered species and all that. That's wild. That's wild to me, and what you guys have is wild. So you want to stay that way. You want to keep doing what you're doing. You gotta stay wild because you are wild and awesome. And yeah, I guess that's just what I say at the end of every episode, just to remind you guys to stay wild and keep your mind straight on what you love and continue doing what you like to do.
So, good night, you guys, and stay wild.
Let me tell you how it all started a long, long time ago. There once was a boy named Alec Fisher in a galaxy far, far away. And he had a can of corn, and he decided what would he do with this can of corn. He would make a TV show, and he would tell everybody about nature. Thank you. This was a documentary. Documented by Morgan Freeman.